My name is Gabriel Schwartz. I have a Master's of Science in Nursing. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I'm practicing as a nurse practitioner in GI Oncology. What motivated me to pursue a career in medicine, honestly, it's just sort of, it's something that I've always kind of come back to. It's something that I've just always kind of been innately interested in, to be honest with you. So when I went to college, I studied chemistry, but I had this kind of concurrent interest also in emergency medicine, and I thought that would be maybe a good way to get some experience, and so I became an EMT. And I, even throughout college, I continued to work as an EMT. I then, I got my degree, I went off, and, even though I would go off and kind of do various jobs, I worked as a chemist, I worked as a clinical research coordinator, I always kind of came back to medicine. The way that I initially learned about the NP field it was actually in my work as a research coordinator. So I was working as a research coordinator on a trial looking at management of cholesterol. And as part of the trial, we were working with nurse practitioners in the trial. And that was really my first exposure to NPs. I hadn't really heard of or worked with NPs prior to that, but the role it was so logical, and it seemed to really fit my my life, my lifestyle, my desires, and my model or my thinking about how I wanted to help people. It fit that so well. And there's a variety of ways that one can become an NP. I mean, my story is that I had an undergraduate degree in chemistry. And then I kind of went back to school. I got a second bachelor's, this time in nursing, and then a master's in nursing, and that was pretty much it as far as the training to be an NP. I mean, the reality though is that there are other pathways to get there. You can you can also get a bachelor's in nursing as your first degree. There's lots of ways to get there. Not all people who have an MSN become a nurse practitioner. So you need to first finish a program where you get your Master's of Science in Nursing as a nurse practitioner. And part of that program, which kind of sets it apart from other MSN programs, is that there are clinical hours that are part of that. And that is one kind of key piece that other MSN programs that are not NP programs, they don't really have clinical hours, or they're very, very different. So after you have your MSN in nursing and you have your clinical hours, you sit and you take a board certification. And you really need a board certification as a nurse practitioner, and that is a test to hold yourself out as an NP. How long was the training to become an NP? My first bachelor's degree was in chemistry, and so I already had a bachelor's degree. To become an NP, you need both a bachelor's in nursing and also a master's in nursing. In general, and this was the case for me, it's about 1.5 years to become to get a second bachelor's, this time in nursing. After that, you need to get a master's in nursing, and that's about another 15 months or so. How I financed my my training, so it was sort of a mix. Before I went back to school after my college degree, I was working for a while, and I did save up some of that money. I was also able to get some financial aid from the school, both as far as scholarships as well as loans. I am a minority in nursing. I'm a Hispanic male nurse, and that actually puts me into a couple of different minority categories in nursing. And frankly, it helps with some of my with some of the scholarship opportunities that are out there that are kind of targeted towards underrepresented groups in nursing, and so that was kind of a helpful thing. my wife, who's also an NP, she actually had a pretty different way of financing her education. And mind you, she actually went to the same exact program that I did. There's an opportunity that's called the Nurse Corps. The Nurse Corps the intent of the Nurse Corps is to try to generate nurses and NPs who will go out and work in kind of underserved communities, so especially primary care clinics and psychiatric care as well. And so she was able to get the Nurse Corps to pay for something in the neighborhood of like, $40,000-ish of her education. As far as the obstacles I dealt with on my path to being an NP, I mean, so school was hard. You know, that was one big obstacle. It's just the fact that school was hard. It is very intense. I think forming collaborations with peers is very, very important. And kind of working with others, you know, sharing notes, and just supporting each other through the program. I'll also mention though that you know, I do come from a medical family, and there are a lot of doctors in my family. And when they heard that I was going to become an NP, they weren't the biggest fans of that. I think that was just a matter of me just kind of, to a certain extent, just kind of plowing through and doing it, but also just showing them how well this fits with the medical model, with my goals. Once I completed my training, there was a lot of work that I had to do to find my initial job. And so when I graduated, I actually could have sworn to you that I was going to work in emergency medicine. I applied to all these ER jobs. I applied to all these urgent cares. And then, you know, I saw this job posting to work at Stanford as a clinical trial NP in oncology. And I had no oncology experience, but I did have research experience and you know, clinical trials. I knew a lot about that because I was a CRC. What I find most rewarding about about being an NP, what I find most rewarding about being an NP is being able to partner with patients to help them meet their health goals. And it's so rewarding to be able to problem solve and to help my patients just live the life that they want to live. I also find it really rewarding to be able to continue to contribute to clinical research. It is so rewarding to be able to work to advance science. What I find most challenging about being an NP, though, is I think honestly there's a bit of a role confusion issue, and the role of an NP is honestly a little bit of a nebulous role. Everybody knows what a doctor does. Most people know what a nurse does. What does an NP do? Mm-hmm. You know, and where does it fit within that paradigm? Because it doesn't fit somewhere in between, right? It's its own thing, and there is a bit of a role issue, and sometimes, you know, you do have to kind of work a little bit to establish, you know, what your role is, and to an extent also what it's not. You know, what I think surprised me about becoming an NP is just how varied my days would be. There's so much that we do on a day-to-day basis, and it can be very challenging too, and not in a bad way necessarily, you know, but it's just it's so multifaceted, and you can also take your career in so many different ways. Frankly, if you get bored of working in a specialty, you can just change specialties. Mm-hmm. You know, and there is a lot of flexibility in being an NP, which is really nice. So you're able to kind of you're really able to branch out and pursue so many different things. There's one other thing that also surprised me about being an NP, and maybe not necessarily in such a great way, which is that the salary differential between being a nurse, that is to say an RN, and being an NP is actually pretty small in most mm-hmm. places. NPs do make a little bit more money in most places than nurses, but not necessarily by all that much. What I would tell an aspiring NP is really to go for it. You know, honestly, I would tell an aspiring NP really to go for it and to put your heart behind it. If you are at all interested in helping others in working with others. If you have a pulse and a heart and an interest in medicine or science, there's a place on this earth for you as whether as a nurse or as an NP. There's a place on this earth for you. If you're thinking about it, it's probably right for you.